Recording in progress. It cracks me up every time. Okay, so I would like to begin by acknowledging the custodians of the land in which we all meet upon today, which for us, it is the Guyabal Jarowair people. And we pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and thank them for continuation of culture and connection to the land. And I also want to welcome your ancestors and the lands from which they come from, and know that this is a space where we can all be together. So thank you, James, for joining us today to talk a bit about your practice, because it's so unique. And I remember first hearing about you, I was like, it's a Norse shaman. Like, you see a lot of people who practice more Andean traditions and stuff like that, but I'd never come across someone who had drawn upon that like Norse Germanic culture and tradition in their practice, and I absolutely was just like, I need to know this dude. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin getting into our questions?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm 38 years old. I'm Queensland born. I come from up north around Rockhampton. I've travelled around all sorts of places, down through Victoria, New South Wales, and then back up to Toowoomba. And so I practice shamanism. I don't technically call myself a shaman. I'm just James. I'm a dad. I'm a friend. I'm an arsehole to some people. I'm human. And so in my practice, it allows me to delve deep inside of me, to heal and understand what it is that it is me. And so who I am is, pretty much a servant to the great white light, not to be confused with other religious concepts, but like the light that the animals all return to. Yeah. And I take that very seriously. And for me, this is a life where every single day is animistic or shamanistic. So everywhere I go, be it the car park, at the shopping centre, or down to a waterfall, there's always something communing. There's always a flow of energy. So that's pretty much me now. That's me in a nutshell now. I craft things. I make a different array of things. I help people to get in touch with their inner self. And once they've touched the inner self, then they open up the inner cosmos, which is the only cosmos. And so I get the honour of walking souls through this transformation. Sometimes it's very big, sometimes it's subtle. And so I get that honour. And so with being a healer or a shaman or things like this, you do take on the burden of people, but then you do get an exchange in seeing the growth that comes from your efforts. And so, that's pretty much why you're in it, is so that you're helping humanity. That's it. That's at least why I'm in it.
Yeah.
Is to help our fellow man, our brother and sister, so that we can all come to this beautiful place inside of ourselves. And that place doesn't need to be, another shaman, or that can just be your own piece. And it's different. Not everyone is on my path, so but that's about me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. And I love that you have that animistic view, like, of the world, no matter where you are, like, the car park or like in nature or wherever. Everything has an essence around you, and it's just being in touch with that and using that to create deeper connection. So I suppose, what brought you to shamanic practice? Like, what got you into this in the first place?
So when I was born differently. I was had the cord wrapped around my throat and born blue, you know, dead into this reality, and then brought back to life, and then lived a somewhat healthy existence, you know, with sicknesses and this and that, and experiences throughout those sicknesses, and then came into an adult and was just living a completely normal type of life, being a mechanic, working for mechanic places, and then I damaged the tendons in my hands. And when I damaged them, that caused my hands to just not work anymore. And then I had a surgery on one hand and it didn't work. And so I was labelled as disabled and not going to do anything. And so when that label came onto me, that was major depression, you know, like a very bad time in my life. And so they had labelled me and I was fed up with it and done. I was wanting to leave the reality. And so when I wanted to do that, at that exact moment, they showed me a lotus, and this lotus had one petal falling down to the ground. And inside of me, I couldn't chop it down, couldn't kill myself just because of one aspect of me had died.
Yeah.
And it was that spiritual awakening. Like that, to me, that was my awakening moment. And that was like all in my mind, just all within one moment. Okay. And it just flashed through. I saw this, and then that meant to me that that part of me's dead, but not all of me's dead.
Yeah.
That's tingling me all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I wrestled with that, I then I used to go walking to help with the depression. And so when I would be walking, I would just start talking and say, I'd started to do my family tree. And so I'd started to work out a little bit of my family line. And like my father had said to me, you know, turn to the good book and the Bible. And so I read the Bible front to back, and it didn't mesh, didn't help me. It didn't make anything change for me.
Yeah.
And if anything, it made me feel more separate to everything. And so I then I did a DNA test and researched who I was as a being, because we'd lost lineage through my father's side and stuff. And so I then found out that I'm part Celtic and I'm part Germanic. Mm. And so I traced the Germanic side. It just felt right. It felt home. And so I went through the Germanic line and traced my lineage all the way back up to the German Alps, back into the Teutonic tribal era. And so deep lineage with a family that never left until they came to Australia. And so that then allowed me to sort of work out, okay, well, they existed before the Bible there. What did they believe?
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling so alone, I need to link. And so I researched all of their culture and started to live each of my days in honour of what they honoured, to try and bring a connection back. And so in doing that, you start to talk to other parts of your ancestry, and other parts start to come through. And so on my daily walks, I would talk to my ancestors and say to them, like, you know, this is pretty shit right now. Like, I want things to change. I want you to show me how things work. I don't, like, you basically, you wouldn't let me leave, so give me the keys to the city.
Yeah.
And they did give me the keys to the city. And so my pre-existing gifts from childhood were that I would leave my body in a conscious state and go over into another reality to process traumatic events. Or, you know, if my dad came in yelling, I would be not there anymore.
Yeah.
And so there was this type of thing already happening in me. And so once I woken up the gifts, so to speak, of talking to the ancestors, they just took me and put me places all through the day. I'd be, you know, playing with the kids or something, and then I'd be like, oh, geez, I feel sick. And I'd go and pass out for 3 hours and come back and tell you how, you know, how the cosmos was created, basically. And so when I researched what was going on with me, I started to understand that I was having shaman sickness. Mm. And so I was then, around the same time, going through a market in Melbourne, and this crystal selling dude, at that point, I didn't know anything about him. He came over to me and he's like, they told me you were coming. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, God, the shamans from the Andes and the Peru, they've told me that you're coming. And I'm like, man, this dude's eating too many mushrooms.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what the word meant back then.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I went home and researched what that word meant. And that word explained my life. It explained how I never felt like I meshed with reality, how I felt like I had to play a role to be able to fit in instead of being just me to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then obviously you start to be shown things from the ancestors that you don't quite understand. And so when you research it, you understand the value of what they're showing you. And so parts of the journey and the vision, you start to really get educated through them. And so me personally, I haven't done any courses. No man has shown me anything. I've had other people, other humans help me heal and help me do things. But everything that I know to show people comes straight through from my ancestral field, from the Great Spirit, whatever you'd like to call that light. Yeah. And just when I do work with people, this person, I step aside and I let the Great Spirit help the people. And that's my part of my role. That's why they made me the way they did when I was a kid, so that I could jump away, I could not be there. But then that made room for the darkness to be there. But once healed, then you can step aside and let the light come through you. Okay? And that doesn't take anything out of you. Then you're pretty good. You could do, like 4 or 5 clients in a day, and it would feel like you've done a normal day work. But if I in the beginning, when I wasn't standing in that, and I still had my own darkness, you'd do 2 or 3 people and you'd be mowed out, you'd be bugging. Okay? Yeah. But yeah, in doing that and coming to that seemed to be able to you sustain yourself more through the white light, through the work with Creator. And so I then got off, like, once I'd awoken a little bit and I'd raised my vibe a little bit, it's then changed very much lots of things in my life. And so, like, I eat a spiritual diet, I drink spiritual blessed water and stuff like this. These were all things that had to happen. They weren't choices. They were just like, wake up one day and you can't eat that anymore. Wake up the next day or another day and the tap water makes you vomit. Like, all of these weird things were going on. And through purification and fasting, I was able to turn things around, heal parts of my body. And so my hands, they're still the way that they are. Like, I work at healing them. That's my continuation of, like, my growth and my continuation of healing, is that I still have limitations in my hands. And so it left me with open hand chakras. That was part of a bit of the trade-off, I suppose, because like, everywhere I go, I can touch and manipulate the energy, or, tell if someone's okay just through touch or feeling their energy. In a healing essence, it allows me to take any entity that doesn't belong in someone. I can remove that entity through just touch. And so, yeah, in a lot of my consults, I don't touch people, and that's for that reason. And so I won't take things from a person unless they can't give it away. And it's going to really hurt them, then I'll take it and get rid of it. But otherwise, you've got to do the work. Just what the Creator has put through me is that I can't do it for you, even though I can to a degree. I'm not allowed to. Like, they limit that. So I won't get the urge to touch you or anything, because you've got to work. You've got to do it. Okay, and so it'll be someone who has this deep-seated little yuck, and the Creator will say, give them a hug or touch their hand or something, and the exchange happens. And I feel it straight away. It lights things up in me, and then I just get rid of it afterwards. This was part of the thing. But yeah, and so nowadays I just do the fixing of people now. So same type of, my mind still works the same way, I suppose, like mechanically, And so it enabled me to then understand the universe and how we work, our cosmic little universe. And when they would deposit information into me, I was able to see it as like a textbook or like an engine manual, you know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, part A, cog B go together like this.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much me. Yeah, that's how I came to be who it is now. And so like the path in the beginning was rocky and filled with broken glass, you know, and so it was a real journey to go through.
Yeah, beautiful. I love how you created such a deep connection through researching your own ancestors and your own lineage, and then that really opened up the pathway to sort of your, you know, how you are as a healer and your practice and everything, and it's really informs everything you do. And you talked a bit about having the cord and that wrapped around your throat in the womb and at birth and that, and having that deep depression where it was, you know, borderline suicide. So I guess that really segues into the next question, which was, what were your initiatory experiences into shamanism? And you said before you don't really like the term shaman as much, but it's what you sort of are embodied wise. So could you just touch a little bit on that?
So the word shaman is a Siberian word, then used as well by Sami people. And so it in itself means like a vessel that can communicate between the realms. And so bearing in mind that none of us are Sami and none of us are Siberian. Yeah. So in our terms, like I'm just a healer or like just some dude that helps. There's not really an English type of word. But in older tongue, so like in Scottish and stuff like this, I would just be called a cunning man. And then old German, I'm called a Siedemann. And so that you understand the entire material manifestation world and how to operate it and yourself, like together and separately. And so, but when you say, or you put on an advertisement that you're a Siedemann, nobody understands what any of this is.
Yeah, absolutely.
People in the trade or in this line of work they'll link it to shamanism, but unless you're, you know, like a 4.5 to 5 foot high little Mongolian type person, you're not a shaman per se. It's shamanic practices, but then it's also Vedic practice. It's also like there's so many other different words for it. And so like in Aboriginal type of stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got the Gadachi man and then you've got traditional healers, and these guys are very different. Like the Gadachi man, he has no choice. Like I have no choice. Just stuff every day.
Yeah.
So me, if you met me in the street, I'm just James. I don't say, hey, go on, I'm shaman or anything like that. Some people call me Raven. Other people that are very experienced in psychic vision and stuff like this, they will call me, you know, like Merlin or other names, that because they can see me in all of the reality. But yeah, me on this earth wearing these jeans and this shirt, James. I'm a dad. I'm a human. Like I'm flawed. I'm scraping my knees and working all of this out with all of you too.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no boss teacher type mentality going on. It's all like, let's get together. We're all kids here. We need to grow up and we've got to do it together.
Yeah.
So for me, this is like my life. So I kind of chuckle when you see the shamanic courses and stuff, because it's like, I don't know how to like I can teach parts of this, but then other parts of it, I was just born this way. So like I can't teach you to wag a tail if you haven't got a tail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it was just that way. And so like if I was to like write my own advertisement that I wanted to just call to say this is what I do, it would be Cedarman, but then nobody knows what that word means.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening, the Cedarman is someone who understands the material realm, understands themselves to an entirety. And so I'm getting there, I'm growing. And then someone that can understand what symbols and sigils do, how to use them. And so this type of Cedaric magic is like one of the stones along the road to Reiki, because all the symbolism is very much the same, just where you're putting it in different places. And so in being Cedar or being shaman means that you're living in line with things. You're understanding what the nature of things is, and you're seeing the bigger picture. It's not about the persona and its role and it wants a can of Coke. It's about what's going on in the greater community and how your energy affects the greater community and stuff like this.
Yeah. And I do love how you made a point of that you're not above everybody. You see a lot of people in these roles who aren't safe, and they take advantage because they do think they're above everybody, or they're somewhat enlightened, and they think that they can provide you a cure-all. But like you said earlier, if you feel there's something that person needs to work on themselves, then you don't touch it. And I reckon that's awesome, because you don't get many practitioners who are that conscious that we are all individual beings who need to do our own work, like with spirit and whatever. So we touched a bit on what your spiritual practice looks like, but I suppose, could you tell us what it looks like on a daily basis? Like, well, how does it play out during your day?
So I wake up, and so when I'm waking, if I'm not feeling like the vibrations are very good in the earth, then I'll have a shower, because when we've slept, we're in the other realm, okay? So we're with the creator, or we're back with our angelic host, however you want to look at that, right? And so when we come back here, it's a first breath into this world, so like born again each day. And so as we're born into this reality, we're born with certain programs. And so part of my practice is that I release myself daily of all said programs, all said karma, all said cursing, hexing, coveting, all of this stuff. So I would either have a shower or sit quietly and just stay inside of myself, that I avoid and nullify any of these things. And then after I've done that, I would drink some water or drink some orange juice. And so then dietary wise, I fast until probably 2-3 o'clock daily. Yeah. If I'm feeling excited about it, I'll go through to like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. But I don't fast from juice. I fast from all solids. Yeah. And then juice, sometimes I might not feel like a juice, and it might be 3 o'clock when I'm having a juice. And then that might be the day that it's 7 o'clock before I'm eating. And then I will pretty much daily, I like to be able to get out and go and have a walk, either be around the block. If it's absolutely, raining heavy, then I'll have a little stroll around my courtyard where I've got some river rocks and I've got some plants. Excuse me. Otherwise, I try and go to the local waterfalls. We've got a few natural waterfalls around Toowoomba. Yeah. Get out and about. And so while I'm out and about, I'm constantly communing with things. So like the trees will be outlaying messages, the animals will outlay messages, and so the birds will be telling you what's going to be going on and stuff like this. And so always listening, always hearing, and then always listening to the divine as well as we go along. And so the divine might simply want you to go to Grand Central so that you walk past this lady that's never had someone smile at her, and you smile at her and say hello, and that lady, old or young, off she goes, and that's her life brightened. She then sees humanity as not such assholes everywhere, and so these are the things that they get me to do daily. And then I'll have clients, or I'll have a feeling that someone's going to come on in, and that'll happen. And then when I eat, I like silence when eating. And that's about being present. And so if we're mindless, then we just potato chips in the mouth, watching TV, mindless, Yeah. And so if we're here and we have the plate and we're looking and we're eating and we're saying thank you, Jesus is nice, I'm grateful, then your body has time to understand that you're eating. Then all of your cells get on board with what's happening. Okay. And this brings about a stillness inside of you, because we don't always need to talk. Okay. Our society has got us in this fashion where we've got to talk. But then nobody can be silent. And then the main problem I feel a lot of people have is like they can't shut down the monkey mind. They don't know what Zen is. They don't know what the peace is. And so if we're always talking out here, it means in there you're never saying anything inside yourself. This type of thing. And so I try to do no talking while eating. And then later that night, I'll have a shower and I will go through the things that have happened and play them out in the way that I feel would be the best scenario in each and every one, because this foretells you next day that you're going to be having a better day. Each day is more successful than the day before. And then I would release all coding, all cording, all programs, and breathe the white light in. And that's what I do at the end in the morning as well, is breathe the white light in, completely surround myself, completely fill myself, and then surround myself and go on with my day.
Yeah. So you're doing that like in the shower or through a meditation or something like that at the beginning and the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sort of closes you off. And so like, because when you're going to go into the sleep realm, you're going home. And so you want to be clean. That's why you have a shower. So when you have a shower, release everything. And the reason why I use the shower is because it's an element. So it doesn't matter what water it is, all of the water in Australia is connected. So if you honor the body of earth and then honor water, every single way you go, the water will be beautiful to you. It's about being in that conscious understanding that that's a vital thing that we need. Okay. And so we treat it the way that you would the air around you. Well, the way I would treat it, not the government.
Yeah.
And, with all the exhaust fumes and stuff. But, so that's how I would feel about it all. And that's how I treat it, is that everywhere you go and everything you interact with is alive. And if we honor that, it'll honor us.
Yeah. That's beautiful. There's a lot of presence and gratitude in your daily practice. And what I like about it is it's not overly ceremonial. Like it's just as simple as not talking while you're eating a meal and having that presence within yourself, and then taking a minute of quiet to actually be with the other beings and things that are in your environment that you share your world with every day, and taking a minute to listen to them and hold space for them like they hold space for us every day. Yeah, because a lot of people think that being spiritual is all about, lighting the candle and drawing the card and having the sage and like all of the things, and they got to make it a whole elaborate thing. But it's so just simple as daily mindful practices. So I love that. I love that you do that.
And the thing there with the ceremony and ritual, so I did extensive thoughts into this. And so like when we live our normal life and we're off playing tennis and not giving a crap about anything, and then we come on a Saturday and we do a ritual, that's what ritual magic's for. But then the next step closer is ceremonial. So that's where you actually understand why it is that you're doing that ritual. You actually know why it is your ancestors did that. That becomes ceremony. But then above ceremony, and this is why I don't do ceremony, is because I'm living so deeply enmeshed with nature that I don't need to have this one moment in time where I go, knock, knock, knock. Hey, how's everyone going?
Yeah.
Because they all just, how you going every day. So
yeah.
I'm constantly in ceremony.
Yeah.
It doesn't end for me. Like there's this dude that I've been watching up in where Adani has a mine. He's an Indigenous man, Coody, I think his name. I probably murdered that. But he opened ceremony 310 or 15 days ago on the site, and said that I've opened ceremony. So it's like he's making a statement. But the idea there is he started to live in ceremony. He has done for so long now, he won't be able to return to normal life.
Yeah.
He's linked himself with the earth. And this is what I did. I linked myself with it. And so did Earth Star connection work. And so that now when I see something happening, like someone spray painted the waterfall, that hurts me. I understand now and didn't before. And I can tell you that a lot of white people don't understand this, but it hurt me when I went to the waterfall because I feel like I'm a caretaker for that place now. Well, empathy for the Aboriginal people, the Indigenous folk. This has been their place. I've only been here for 38 years. Like these guys have been here forever, right? And so when I go there, I understand that there's not going to be these little white elf folk everywhere. We're not in Europe.
Yeah.
They're Indigenous. Okay? We've got to get with it. Like, doesn't matter where you think you are. You can't call in European ancestry to a place where they never were. Like, you've got to go to the European place in your mind, in the journey land, so that you can access this. This is how I did it. Like, but I'm a bit, I'm fixed that way. I can't journey in Australia. I journey in Europe all of the time in my mind. So every time I go in and see a forest, it's not one here. Like when the Uluru activation, I tried to journey go to Uluru, and I kept being in the forest over there, like a long way away.
Yeah.
So I think part of that is your own inner compass as to who you are, where you're meant to be, or not where you're meant to be, because you're meant to be where you are, but like where you used to be, where your ancestry's been, this type of thing. And so I very much found that through the practice too, that inside of people, it will be different for each human. Each DNA, each ancestry has its own little game, you know, like their own theme, you know, for this type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That nearly made me cry. Talking about the waterfall, I'm like, bro.
Oh, man.
So that just blew my socks off. Give me a minute. So I guess in sort of, let's go in segue into healing humans through this connection you have with spirit and nature and things, and healing humans so that they become more aware of the environment around them, and you know, I get to a point when they too feel like they are caretakers and they need to take more responsibility for their connection and their impact. Like, how does your energetic and spiritual healing practice look when you're with a client? Like, what do you sort of go through and work?
So all of the things that I achieved, I then passed on to people. And so when they awaken enough to understand that there's something to care about, after that point, like lots of steps, then they'll start to work out that Mother Earth is something. Okay. They can't see either of these things. And so that led me to want to help people wake up and see that this is not iron ore. This is a being. We care that way. And so that really, you know, gave me a kick up the bum, so to speak, of like, I want to help people see this. I want to help them see that this is not just something that makes money. Like, to me, it's better left where it is. Don't take any of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't cut any branches. I don't do any of those things. I take everything that has fallen from nature. Nature has said, I don't need this anymore. This can now be broken into dirt to feed the ecosystem. We then can have that. Okay. And so I wanted other people to feel this, and I wanted other people to not suffer in their own misery anymore. And so when I'd worked out how to fix me, I then put that into a platform that could help other people. And so before I'd done that, I was already helping people, but it was more sort of exorcism type of stuff. Excuse me, but not Hollywood exorcism. None of it really looks that way.
Yeah.
It's more mild and stuff like this. And if you're about to kick a big one out, they might turn and say something nasty to you, but a lot of it's very mild. And so then when I'd fixed all my insides and come into the white light completely, then I'd understood what needed to be done for people. And so when they come in for a consult, I link in and I hold my hand up and I say, may I have permission to speak with your highest and best good? And the human goes, yeah. And I'm not listening to that. I'm listening to my little fingers, and they need to wiggle so that that's their energy saying, yeah, I'm here. And then once they're here, I can then link in with their higher good and their higher self, or their inner self, or in old German, it's Filga. And so that's your inner being. And so I can link in with that. And then the inner being doesn't give a crap about the things you want to tell me. It just tells me everything, or shows me everything. And so it goes from childhood trauma up until now, from birth till now. And so some of that's not very nice to see, but it allows me to help. And so I don't need the person to walk through the crap again. I just need them to see that it's there, know that it's there. Like you and I both know, right? Let's kick it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And so through lots of hours and lots of time of like figuring out how the body is meant to work, not what they say it is, but like how it actually is from a divine perspective, then was able to work out that certain practices need to be done at certain points within the healing so that they get the most benefit out of the healing. Because I'm not here to have people come for 4 multiple sessions and, this type of stuff. I want you to come along for an appointment, have your ears buckled up, so you hear the things I tell you, so that you can then go away from here and put these things in practice. And if you need to come back and see me and say, hey, what was that? Or, hey, you're really cool, let's go for another journey. That's cool. But like not a repeated thing of like having clients repeat and I'm like, you're dependent. Like, you know what I mean? Got to look after you. I'm wanting to show you the things that worked for me and have worked for multiple hundreds of other people. And so that way you can free yourself. Unfortunately, I can't just explain it to you because I have to show you. I have to take you on a journey, show you what's there, show you how to work with it, and then you work with it. Yeah. But the idea of seeing me is so that I open up the inner fabric of you, then you can do whatever you bloody well want with it, okay? And so in doing that, the people get major changes in their life, from quitting smoking, quitting drinking, to changes throughout relationships, speaking to parents again after not speaking for years, like so many different things, all depending on the individual wounding.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I offer the attunement work. And so there's the attunement work is the major one. And so that's where you do your chakra work, as in fix the direction of the chakra flow throughout all of the energy centers, all the major 7. And then fixing your connection with the earth. Okay, because the earth is an energy that we need to tie in with. Otherwise, you're kind of like a flea on her back.
Yeah.
Okay. And so she's not really taking care of you. And so tying in with that, and then tying in with your soul star so that you can recognize the divine. Okay. And that brings you into your own power. Okay. Once that's done, we then release the karma, release all of the patterns, release all of the cords, anything that's inhibiting you, any sexual traumas, anything like this from past lives, get rid of all of these drains on the energetic system. And then in doing this, you'll fix like body aches and pains and, slouchy shoulders and all of these types of things. It can rebalance hormones. It can fix the way that the body actually sits inside of itself. So if you get right into Chinese medicine, they explain about how the ovaries can sit and how the shoulders, the back, and everything can sit for emotional traumas. And so this will all reverse all of this. And so it's done with shamanic tooling, and that allows the healing to go deeper than just someone guiding you. So if someone just sits here and talks to you, you're only in this first phase of your mind. And so you need to get back into the bottom of the mind to be able to really kick anything out of it. Yeah. And so the work is kind of like hypnosis, except you're completely conscious of everything I'm saying. You're saying it too. And everything works because of this conscious engagement with the subconscious.
Yeah.
You're in there, you're programming it. Okay. And so then down from that, I do just a shamanic 9 healing, which is just opening up the chakras, correcting their flow,
and then connecting you with the Earth Star and your Soul Star. The other one is, it's like the big one, and that is the one that you'll, have lots of effect from. So it's very common for people after they have that session with me to have like full integration, like a full let go of things, so many different sickness type of things that will be very short-lived, like three weeks sort of thing is the total integration. And so you might say if you had a third eye issue or throat issue, then you're going to see that manifest in like major headaches, sore throat, coughing up loogies, this type of thing. And then 2 days later, you'll be bright as a button again.
Yeah.
Okay? And so this is the energy that releases, and because I don't predetermine what everyone's going to get, it, comes in and they've got a bound up throat, but everything else is fine, then all they're going to have is like sore throat for a little bit. But if they've had like sexual traumas and stuff, then it can be so bad as like someone past menopause actually bleeding again because of the center letting go of its toxicness. And so then apart from that, I do soul journeys. So take people inside on a typical shamanic journey, or a traditional, I should say, where you're going through a forest into a sacred space. And once in the sacred space, that's a platform where you can unfold your inner child, bring forward ancestors. That's the home for your spirit animal. And so it's a very important place to take people. I feel like it's one of the building blocks. So I do the chakra work so that it cleans you up so that you can do anything you want in your inner cosmos. And so in my mind, you get the healing work done, then you do journey work, because then you're good to go. Because if you do journey work, then you're taking in all of your fleas and crap that you got into your sacred space.
Yeah.
It's more work to do later. You got to go and tidy it up and stuff like this. And so then if I meet someone who is unique to both of those scenarios, all three of those scenarios, then there's other things you can do to assist them in a more one-on-one individual setting of timeline therapy, where you take the person back to the trauma in their life and you can either swap timelines or you can burn the timeline so that it's clean. I don't know if other people do that, but you can burn a timeline so that all of the darkness is burnt away by the light, and that changes your past and your future. Like time travel, very much like going into the past or into the future and squashing a bug like on The Simpsons. Everything can change. And so the thing with the healing work that I participate in, it's ancestral in its basis. So when you heal your kids. Yeah. You heal your parents, you're healing everything, right? And so it's like a big honor and a big responsibility. Okay. And so I do it and do it every single day because I don't want my children growing up in the world I did. I don't want them feeling the way that they did when they're an adult with all of this crap to unpack. Now, obviously I know I'm human, so they're going to have crap to unpack. But if it's not the things that I had to unpack, if it's just these other things, then that's cool. But some of the things that I had to unpack, you don't want other people to unpack. Yeah. So that's the driving force, is to change it for my children so that there's new karmic lines coming through. Everything's created for them. Yeah. Yeah. And then so you can do different types of journeys, soul retrievals and stuff like this. They're pretty few and far between. I've done them a few times for sort of more private clients, long-serving clients that have had multiple different scenario type of things going on, where you have to go and collect different pieces, expunge timelines, swap timelines, all sorts of things. But any of those wild things you can do, I just probably don't know the name for it. Yeah. Because of the way I was born into this, I've been able to play in the other reality all my life. And so it's only been through the last 7 years or so that I've been working everything out as to what it's all called and what it does and the capacity of what you can do there. Yeah. So if you feel that there's something that I might be able to help you with, just reach out and ask me if that's something I can assist you with. Because I just might not know the name or what you're talking about, or I might not advertise it.
Some of the things, when I started to write my ads and put myself out there, I kept it pretty low on the woo-woo side of things.
Yeah.
Because the public at that point weren't very susceptible to it. And so it seems to have opened up a lot more now, and people are wanting to know who does this and who does that. And so I just haven't updated anything that tells people that I do these other things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, like if you were to talk to my friend Jamie Spooner from the coast, he would tell you the mountain of things that I could do with you. Okay, but I don't know all the names for them. Okay, so anything you feel like that, you'd like assistance with, even mentoring, I do a fair bit of that. Helping people along their journey, and not necessarily to get a healing. I just will help them. So some people, I've helped people that practice black magic. I've helped them to understand what it is that they're doing, so they know what they're doing, so they can consciously understand and then shift one day into working with the light. Okay, understanding that everyone has their purpose and their path in this. So I might not condone that type of thing, but if someone's coming to me for a healing because they want to change their life, then I'll help facilitate that for them.
Yeah.
And give them full understanding of how I understand what it is that they're doing, and do they know they're doing that?
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of a pop culture, to do all of these things, and we don't understand what we're doing with it. And that's just boldface. Okay, we have people doing rituals and stuff like this where they're cutting the head off a chicken and giving blood and all this crap. You got no idea what you're doing that. I'm just going to call everyone out on that. No one's got no idea. Okay? We've got to sit with the divine and ask the divine what the divine wants. Okay, and so when we do this, great learning comes. Not human learning, but great creation learning, where you're learning what the magpie needs, what the magpie would like from the universe as well. What the kangaroo, or the cow, or the elk, all of these animals, what they want, what they need to sustain, what they think is peace, what they think is calm. Because we're led through this funny life that we live where we understand all animals are out to kill us. Well, I'm sorry, magpies don't attack me. That I can be middle of magpie season, walk right up to the tree where their nest is. Yeah. Because I don't want to harm them.
Yeah.
They're not stupid. We are the only ones that think we're better than everything. Us, human race, okay? Not you, I, or any of the people that are listening, but us as a race of beings think we are superior to these things. We're part of the ecosystem as well. They did forestry studies where they left the forest by itself and it actually deteriorated. But when we're there, not mucking with it, but actually walking and talking and touching the trees, the forest actually grows in harmony because the ecosystem is balanced.
Yeah.
So how can we be more supreme?
We're an integral part. We just don't need to be in control of everything. We just need to be what we were inherently put here to be, instead of trying to manipulate everything to the way we think we're supposed to have it.
Absolutely. We've all got our certain part to play in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And if we play that, the whole place will hum. It will be beautiful.
Yeah. And I suppose that comes back to how your healing practice works too, because through healing those spiritual, energetic traumas and imbalances and things like that, you're reharmonizing your physical self as well. Like your own inner ecosystems are becoming realigned and reattuned. And then once they're realigned and reattuned, that ecosystem, that environment within you is going to permeate outwards. And then you're creating balance where you go instead of being the cause of imbalance. So it's interesting.
I did a journey for a lady once and she said, I really want to help the world. I just want to help the world. And so I did a journey and said to Creator, I said, this lady wants this, and the Creator said that for all those that want to change the world, change yourself. Why? Because the hidden line here is you are the world.
Yeah.
So change you and that will change your world.
Yeah.
Everything changed for me, and that was because I changed my world. I changed the way I felt about it, not think. Thinking is like
moving your elbow, right? But feeling, that's linked in with the divine. And so I started to change the way I felt about things. When you change the way you feel about things, that inherently changes the way that you think about things. Because you're not thinking anymore from your brain, thinking that that's the middle of the universe and it's the driving seat. Your heart is where your soul sits. So that you have to come back to, so that then you can speak to Mother Earth, you can speak to the animals, and then understand what they're saying. Because they won't say, "G'day, I'm Gary." Like, they say it in your own words. They will, in your own voice, in your own feelings, in that knowing, they will say, "Hello, I'm Gary," and you will understand, because they're not called a red gum or a Trisiantha or a Polyanga. They're Gary, Gus, or Margaret, or, you know, like, their names, they're beings. Like, every single culture in the world, in its traditional essence, understood that when we cease to be here, we go either to the stars or to the trees. There were two of the places, you know, like we die and go into the earth, but like the place where you went after that was into the trees, and so, or into the stars, you know, depending on who you were as a person. And in every race throughout the world, we all held that belief that that's what happened, you know. And so the fact that we've gotten to this point now where we don't look after the place, and thus not looking after ourselves, you know, because to look after oneself is to cherish and love it. And so the culture of our world is so perverted that dozens of people go to the gym and stretch and tear their body because that's love. And you know that they're trying to love themselves. So, like, you have to commend that they're going to the gym, but at the same time, it's an act of hatred to the cells of your body. And so we have to find this happy medium where living life and exercising come hand in hand, so that we have this overall fitness, not this illness of body fatigue. Like, these bodies are smashed by the time that they're 60.
Yeah.
And so too late then to turn your cells around, too late then to fix the I love you. You know, the body's got 60 years, 60,000 Ks of wear on it, you know, like a car. And so bringing it back to that, we've got to take care of that now. And so, yeah, like, I'm not saying be unfit and go sit at home. I'm just saying, think about what it is you do with your body. And if it hurts, that's it talking. It's talking. We got to listen. I never listened and blew my hands. Did not listen, did not even know that it was speaking. But now I know now. And so my appointments often run over because I talk and explain, because I want the person to go away from this with like a whole show bag of stuff, so that they can get on with their life, so that they can have the power to change what it is that they want to change in their life. You know, whether if they want to jump into business, or they want to have a family, or they want to be free of toxic situations. I want to give them, I want to empower them so that they have the skills, the desires to be able to fulfill this.
Beautiful. And that's a good segue into what I'm going to ask next is, you know, once you've had like a healing session, or we've had experiences with you or with the divine and spirit and stuff, and we start to open ourselves up a bit more to that realm and want to embody that way of being a lot more, being in harmony with the earth and with ourselves, and therefore with everybody else, where would you go? Like, where would you point people, like, resource wise, like, and what advice would you give them when they're delving down that path, like when they're starting that journey of learning and wanting to get more information about how to be embodied like that?
If you've come into this through a type of event in life, then you are what would be termed as naturally gifted or shamanic or something like this. And so then that person, I would say, get a book about or some papers to try and understand what it is that you are, not what all of the practices are, but what you are. So read some behavior analyst stuff, not really shamanic, but like modern psychology, to understand what it is scientists think is going on with you.
Then
understand what traditional healers. So get yourself some sacred healing books. In the northern stuff, there's a dude named Edward Dawson, and he does books about the Teutonic culture and all of this stuff. And there's a couple of YouTube channels that are pretty good. I can tell you after with links and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so otherwise, basically when we read something, it's someone's experience. So like right now, you're hearing my experience. When you read a book, it's someone's experience. And so not all experiences are the same. So if you don't have the intellectual fortitude to be able to pull someone's work apart and get just the learnings from within the text, then I would suggest that person sits with themselves and daily says, show me where I need to be. And just turn up. Stop thinking, stop planning, just turn up where the universe says to be. Okay? And that will bring you in line with things. And then you're going to say, oh, I'm interested in this. And the universe will go, meet this person, they do, say it's Reiki. Meet this person, they do Reiki. Or it could be, I need to meditate or do Tai Chi. Meet this person, they do Tai Chi. Like the universe will listen because you're stopping and you're surrendering, okay? And you're getting into the flow. That would be my advice, because I've read lots of things, and the stuff that your divine can give you far outweigh what any man has written with a pen, man or woman.
Yeah.
Okay? We're having their interpretation. And so, like if I wrote a book and I wanted all of you to understand it, I wouldn't write about all of the crazy things that I do in the other world, because you don't know about it. Okay, so there's certain things that are left out when we're reading these documents because they don't know if you can understand it. Okay, and so when you're reading these documents and you're like, well, this is a waste of money, there's nothing in here. There's going to be substance in there, but you're probably not vibrating enough with it to be able to understand what's going on in the book. Okay, and so sitting with self again and saying, showing me where I need to be, and understanding that you're never late, you're never a slow learner, you're never any of these things. You are always right where you need to be. There is no such thing as a coincidence, late or running or, geez, I'm slow at this. You're always right where the divine has timed you. Okay?
Yeah.
And so if you've been at this for 20 odd years and you're only now just getting a grasp on it, that had nothing to do with you and everything to do with the world around you and the consciousness around you. You were willingly saying yes, 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 yes. But the blanket of darkness was still way too heavy on everyone. Okay, now the veil is thinned and the aeons have changed, so we've got different vibrations happening. So everyone will be stepping into their stuff big time. Okay, but yeah, anyone that's saddled this path for a very, very long time and then said, geez, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing, you're not talking to yourself. You're not asking these questions. You're expecting humans to answer you. Okay, like I can only give you my experience and the experience I've had through the eyes of people that I've healed. But otherwise, every day I learn things. Every client that I do, I see something new inside of them because they're not me. So I've seen everything in me for years.
Yeah.
And when I heal people, I see these different things, and then I compare to my own self and go, okay, so they've got that, and this is this. How's that sit? Okay, divine. Okay, we've got to do this. Okay, I don't ever do things without questioning the divine and saying, show me where I need to be.
Do you feel with that, though, that there may be some people who take that as a code, like as permission to be codependent on the divine instead of doing their own work as well through that journey?
So when you surrender, in my ideals of surrender, okay, you become a servant of the great creation, and the great creation then looks after you. And so if you're always leaning on the great creation, like, oh, I don't know what to do here, that's not surrendering. You're playing this narcissistic game with the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, where you're still in control because you haven't actually surrendered. If you've surrendered, then you don't worry about, whether there's going to be somewhere to buy a drink, because that there will be. And so it's like this egotistical way of knowing that you're going to be taken care of. But without the ego, it's more of a humble of like, I don't have to worry about that. The universe has got me. Not this, she'll be right. Like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
The universe is going to respond to your humbleness, you know, because it humbly just sits underneath your feet and does nothing. So we see, you know, like, to the naked eye, to the normal human who's just, you know, doing the 9 to 5, the earth does nothing. But we do nothing. But when we start doing something, it starts doing things too.
Yeah. So it sees you're showing up for yourself and you're wanting to step into that realm. So it starts reciprocating the effort that you're putting in. Like, there's that balanced energy exchange.
Yeah, we can't ever have anything without applying action. Okay.
Yeah.
Those people that always manifested millions of dollars, you can't ever have millions of dollars because you don't put any action in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can burn as many friggin' Baileys as you want, but if you're not doing the work, it's not going to happen. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So what were some of the links in that you were saying, or I know you've had a few teachers per se that you we've talked about previously. Do you think you could probably point us to those resources? Or
the teacher, what did you say?
The teachers, or other people you've come in contact with that you've sort of learnt, and, you know.
I'll throw him under the bus here.
Yeah.
So down from the Gold Coast, there's this gentleman named Jamie Spooner. Okay. And he's a Sagittarius, beautiful man, very humble. Okay. And so passes himself off as a psychic practitioner, but is actually very, very good at helping people. Okay. Still stepping into his light, obviously. He may hear this, so I love you, Jamie. And so, but that gentleman there was someone that I met as a peer. Okay. Not teacher, student, not anything. We're brothers, but we're, you know, solid.
Yeah.
And so we bounce off each other in an effort to raise ourselves so that we can support humanity. Yeah. Okay. Like, we see in the future, for either one of us, the capacity to have like a block of land where we're helping people. People are coming and staying and learning about what it is they are, and then going away and living their life. Yeah. You know, so, and then there's Danielle at the crystal shop. She's very, very, very talented lady. So, like, these are the people that I go see, that I interact with, and I get healing through. Kelly Flack, very good practitioner, way more talented than I think she would like to believe herself to be. Yeah. Yourself, you're a very, very talented young lady. Yeah. Still stepping into your light. Thanks. and then there was this, probably the most, like, the one that turned for me was, I read this paper about autism and shamanism, and it was written by Gonzo Benali, a Russian shaman. And so I contacted him and spoke to him. And so I never met the guy, but probably gave me the biggest hand ever. And so he said to me that you need to go and get yourself healing. And so I went along and got a healing. And that was where I'd said to the universe, I need someone to heal me, someone who understands. And so I met Jamie, and we got to healing and got to releasing, like, close to 300 dark lords, elementals, these types of entities that inhabit us. And so for anyone who journeys into the low realms, every time you go there, if you don't have a piece of light inside of you, you're picking up pieces of dark, which is how it works. And so I got all of that shifted in me through working with Jamie. And so when Gonzo had said that, you know, you're going to need a healing, that's going to help you, like, grow in whatever it is you're meant to be doing for spirit. Like, 10% of me believe what he was saying, right? And then once I got healed, it changed astronomically. Like, once I'd had the assistance, the know-how. So, like, when we're healing ourselves, there's so much you can do by yourself. And then there's so much that you require another person to assist you with. And that's not because we're stupid and we can't do it, but that's because it's another set of eyes with a different perspective. Yeah. And so that perspective gives you another set of eyes to jump into, to then see what it is you're going through, to then go, shit, that's what it is. Okay?
Yeah.
And so that's why amongst the healing community, if the people will allow it, there can be a camaraderie where it's not a competition. This is like, mission upgrade, and let's all do it together. Okay. Yeah. But unfortunately, the ego that still rots around within people limits this. Okay. This is the most limiting thing for our community in a spiritual sense, is the ego amongst people, where I can't go amongst them like they do that. Like, go meet them. Don't be egotistical. Let's try and grow this thing so that all of humanity can learn from what all of the children have to offer us.
Mm.
Every single person has their own little gift, their own little bit of the piece of the puzzle. Okay. The only reason why I've got so many pieces of the puzzle is because of all the last lives that I pulled into my life. And so all of those 250 odd lives, they're all pulled into one life. So I'm 250 people's experiences in one life.
Mm.
And so that gives you 250 odd gifts, so to speak, if you wanted to like put it as a, noughts and crosses type of thing. And so that gives you more experience, more depth to be able to help people in a broader sense. Because like if I haven't experienced it now, I might have experienced it in the last life. So like I haven't died in this life, but last life I was burnt and stoned to death. So I can sort of feel what it is for someone to be traumatized very deeply by a physical type of situation.
Mm.
Right?
And so you draw upon that past life knowledge through journeying or through meditation, or?
So in a general sense, if for anyone who wanted to link in with their past life stuff, this is like a Akashic record. But in the old German stuff, it was called a well. And so we went along to the well, and it just had all these orbs in there, and these are all your past lives. And so in the understanding of a past life is that, like the creator is a part of you, you were a part of that life. You didn't necessarily live it. You were just a part of that. Mm. And so when we take that on, when we think that we were that person, then we wear the karma like a bloody badge. But when we understand we were just a particle of sand that made up that being, then the karma is like, hang on a minute, I don't want that crap. Like, get that away. Okay. And so when journeying to the well, you can then put the knowledge in you. You can either just go there and look at it right and understand that that's what you did. But I was drawn through my guide system at that point to insert them into myself, into my third eye, to take them on. Please don't copy what I'm saying, people. Okay. Karma comes with it. But I took those lives on, and that brought about gifts. And then you have to heal off those lives. Okay. And so I was helped then by divine helpers like Thor and stuff like this, because some of these entities aren't what the pop culture makes them to be. Very different. And so like to me and all of my practices, this might shake up everyone, but Archangel Michael and Thor and Paran and Donna and Tyrannus, they're all the same being. Okay, they're just like different outfits. All right.
Yeah.
They're all different words for the same type of being. And so in Aboriginal culture, it's Memon. That's the same word, it's Memon. And so that was a thunder entity. And so the thunder entity meant that they were the shamanic god, because they make the boom boom, the drum. And so that's where the hammer and the Thor and his hammer came from, was he's a shamanic god. I've lost myself a little bit here.
Past lives.
Yes. So when you would go to the Akashic record or to your well of wisdom, you can choose to either insert these into yourself and have these gifts come through and ride with you, or you can just leave them there. It all depends on what you're drawn to do. I wouldn't go do anything you're not drawn to do, just because, it sounds cool like I did it. I wouldn't condone that, okay?
Some people stay in the well.
Yeah. Some people, when you touch the orbs, if you do go there and you do find any of these things inside yourself, sometimes when you touch the orbs, they're quite traumatic. And so, it's not something that you do. Like I don't go back and do it. I've still got 7 or 8 of them or something like that left. And I haven't gone back to do any more of them. I was kind of tricked into doing a few of them. So, I did say I wanted to level up, and that's how you do it.
Yeah. Just took the fast train straight to your shaman level.
And then they'll get, after you do things like that, they'll get you to do things like returning all of the pieces of yourself, because when you understand and take in these bits, there's fragments of them everywhere. And so you've got to go to collect up the fragments so that the gift can be whole. Once the gift is whole, then you can heal the being that had that. And so that's how you're getting the timeline therapy of your own self, is that you're healing the past life wounding that it was held. So then the essence can just go into the stars.
Yeah.
Or back into the light, or back to God, whatever, you know.
Wherever it needs to go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I want to leave some room for questions. So I just want to get you to do a brief summary of what walking the path of the shaman has done for your life. If you can manage that.
So walking the life of being a shaman has changed my life drastically. It changes everything. So mine went through wounding and depression, and then ostracization from society, to a point where you ostracize, but then you want to help them. Like it's a weird pendulum swing that a lot of people probably understand, that I don't necessarily like a lot of people, but I want the best for you all. And so that's why I help people. Like if I was to, win Lotto tomorrow and have a property, 50,000 acres or something, would I still help people? Yes. I would have that property so I could help you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, ceasing to help humans would mean ceasing to want to be here anymore. Like that was my barter, is to stay here, was to be able to help everyone, free everyone from this, because it was hell and I didn't want anyone else to live like that. And so I met people that live like that, and I've helped them since. So to free them. So living the life now, that what it's given me is I have joy every single day. I don't have depression like I used to. I still have bad days where I wake up and like wish that they would all shut up and I couldn't hear any of your thoughts, and these types of things. And that's what makes what a shaman is. So like the person who studies to be a shaman, they want to be that, right? They wake up every day and they're like, shit, yeah, I'm going to school, going to be a shaman. Like I wake up every day and the shit is real. And so I wake up, 9 out of 10 days loving the fact that the universe speaks to me. But then there are those days where you wake up and you think like, just shut up. Like, I don't want to know that, this happened when you were a kid. Like, stop raping my mind with your mind. And I know it's me and my gift, but it's sometimes the way that you're formatted gets a bit much. And this is what in the traditional sense made the shaman, because in the traditional sense, the shaman or the healer, they were that person that was born the way I was born. And so it wasn't like this celebrity status of like, oh, he's a shaman. It was like an acknowledgement of like, he has Tourette's. Of like, this person has had these things happen to them, and now this is them, and they can help us because of those things, that type of thing. Yeah. And so it is a beautiful thing to be able to help everyone, but that's what makes it be like a real case of shamanism, is that like you're waking up and it's not this burst of like, yeah, I'm a shaman, like it's a rock star, like it's this new persona. This was an actuation or like a realization of who I truly was. And so once I aligned myself with who I truly was, then everything else fell in line. So like, I'm not a psychic, but I can be psychic for people in a healing. Yeah. But I don't just stand next to you at the cash registers and have these things of like, hey, you should buy that house or blah, blah, blah. Like, no, what I hear is like, hey, when I was 3, my uncle did to me. Yeah. Like, I hear your emotional body. In saying that, like, it's a great thing to be able to do. It's one of these things that you're learning still to shut down modes of it so that you can function in the reality that you have here. Yeah, I was going to say, I guess that's a very important thing to touch on, is that if you're sort of that way inclined, where you're sensitive to
the energies and the people around you. You really need to have some strong energetic boundaries of what you choose to take on to yourself and what you choose to bring in, and the right setting to do that. Like, obviously in a healing session, you're going to be open to whatever is coming through from them because they're there for healing. But when you're just like going to get a coffee in the morning, you're not necessarily energetically set up to facilitate that cry for help. I mean, take it or leave it. It's up to you if you want to. But like, you know, in an example like that, I would be like, well, it's a bit full on for me first thing in the morning. I might just come back to that. Or, you know, like I need to maybe protect myself a bit more because that energy is, yeah, it's very full on.
I understand that everything is happening at a divine moment. So like, although this is like one of them things of like, really? Okay, so I don't even get to eat my dinner. We're doing that. You're here for spirit's work. And so it might inconvenience me, but then I remind myself to sit in my emotions that I do want to help people. So in those moments where you're feeling like you can't shut it down, there are crystals to help you, like tourmaline, all these other different quick crystals that you can wear. You know, you can smudge yourself, you can meditate and close down parts of yourself so that you can be active. You can, you know, change parts of your diet so that you're not so sensitive to things that are around you. Like, there are measures you can take. Okay, don't go shutting off what you have. Just understand what it is and understand the things that make you sensitive. Yeah. Not sensitive enjoyment, as in sensitive like, oh, I'm, you know, doing good things now, but like where it's too much for you. Understand some things are just going to be too much. Like when they broke this blueprint out and said, right, you're all going to work and you're all going to play footy and it's all normal and rah, rah, rah. They're talking about like 2% of the world. They're not talking about every single individual uniquely person and the way that we're all meant to function. So just, if you can't handle going shopping, accept that you can't handle going shopping. Yeah. Surrender. When you surrender to it, it will stop controlling your life. In surrendering to it and saying, look, I give over all my power. I just give it over. Then you will find other strategies within yourself to be able to handle this situation. Okay. Avoidance probably would not be the key, because what we reject, we attract. So in an essence, just surrender how you feel. So like when you go there and you feel panicked at the shops, just say, that's okay. It's okay for me to feel panicked. Yeah. We are herding free people into a concrete building, layers away from Mother Earth, with artificial foods and smells everywhere. So it's natural that you don't feel good there, okay? But we all are like in this conscious world of like, you've got to be feeling fine and you've got to be, you don't got to be, you've got to be how you feel. Like, that's what you've got to be. That's the only thing you got to be, is how you feel. And so if you don't like going to McDonald's, don't go. If you don't like going to the shows, don't go. If you like to go to the bush and just submerge yourself in the bushland, go and do that. You know, talk to the people around you and communicate and say, these things are sharp and spiky and I don't like them. Can we get resistance? Yeah. Like, that's the biggest thing you can do. If you can speak for yourself and speak up and understand what it is that is you and how it ticks, that's the best thing, because then you're going to be able to do the things to help yourself. Yeah. Beautiful. That really comes back to living in alignment with your inner being too. Like your inner being's going, I don't like this. This is too much. Like, you know, I'm getting all the feels, all the energies, whatever. And then you're having that conversation with yourself of, you know, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling, experiencing that way. But what, you know, once you accept that, what can I do to sort of proactively get around it or make it a bit more comfortable, or even just go, well, that's a boundary for me and I don't have to cross it. Like I can just choose not to do that. And it's not necessarily avoidance. It's just recognizing that there is a limitation there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in those moments, asking oneself, is this mine? And if it is, then let me deal with it. And if it is not mine, then I release it. Yeah. Because 9 out of 10 times, 100 other people feel the way that you do. And so you're probably not even feeling that. Like, it's probably someone else's feeling in the shopping centre, you know, that's about to have a breakdown, and you're getting this projection. And that can be like 3 kilometers some people can project. So, you know, and more, you know, some people can project across the world. So like, you think of that for a moment, and if that person is in a panic state, then everyone in the shopping center is going to be an asshole because they're all in a panic state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I basically, the message is like, ask yourself what it is that is me. Best bet.
Yeah. And start embodying that as you can.
Yeah. Live it every day. Breathe it every day. Be you.
Yeah. Beautiful. So we might open up for some questions if anybody wants to ask James anything.
Absolutely.
Eileen, can we? Were you going to say something, Eileen, or?
Well, I'm kind of intrigued by some things, what I'm hearing. Some of that aligns close. Some of what James is saying aligns very closely with the practices that have come down through my ancestry. I never quite understood the concept of like cutting a branch when there were fallen ones to use and things like that, because of the way I grew up with an earth scientist, and you were meant to, if you harvested anything, you were meant to do that and only use what you were intended to use and things like that. So so I kind of understand like all of that, but also the practice, the way we saw it, was more about self healing. So the Hermetic axiom starts off through the Judaic line, starts off with like to know, to will, to dare, to science, but to know is basically to know thyself. So I'm kind of going, a lot of it, like I'm seeing a lines, but I'm also kind of curious when you're talking about the boundaries and things, because a lot of people have some very, very severe unhealed traumas, and a lot of professionally trained therapists and things struggle. And I'm talking people who were, you know, trained in psychotherapy and things, struggle with the depth of traumas, and they can often be traumatized by dealing with those. And for me, all my shadow work has been dealing with my own, because quite frankly, a lot of it was too much for a lot of other people. So I'm kind of, I guess my question is like, you kind of started to touch on it in that last question about how do you deal with things that might start crossing those boundaries and stuff, like, and have you dealt with people who've had like very severe things before, who've had like very severe things, or who might have very severe medical complications or things that have created you know, very, very complicated history? It's like there could be someone who was intersex, non-binary, they could have had, you know, all sorts of physical or emotional or other traumas.
So to answer that, I would take the person to the trauma that had instigated these behaviours, and instead of witnessing it again and living through it, you just take them to the point on the map, and all of the energetics are there, and you release and surrender and understand that you chose it. And in understanding that you chose it, it releases all of the energy you hold around it, because you hold your own guilt, because in your soul you know you chose it. So that guilt won't ever let go until you acknowledge the fact that you played a part in it. When we acknowledge that part, okay, and we don't have to go right through it to say like, I'm the one that chose this. Just have to acknowledge that you're the one that is here incarnated. So you're the one who actually signed off and said, these are the lessons. And in understanding this, you can heal and shift the energy far deeper than the psychiatrists and psychologists in modern sense can. They're not allowing the onion layers to be healed. What they're doing is they're taking you to the trauma and walking you through all of it every single day, every single time you go, and that embeds it in your timeline. So to take it out of your timeline so that you can actually move past it and stand in your own power, you have to dissolve it into stardust, so it's no longer a fraction in your time. And by going in, witnessing and forgiving yourself for the parts you played and the parts that the other souls played, that alleviates it from the timeline. How does that sound?
Well, that's kind of interesting because a lot of people with traumas have severe memory losses. They can't do that. They literally can't walk through that because and we call that, sometimes we call it in psychotherapy term a trigger. But that memory, I love the symbology on
the drum.
Yeah, I love the symbology on your drum.
The drum will help
and
you.
And that memory.
The drum helps
that memory aspect.
Yeah. So the drum will help you access the parts of your mind that you've locked yourself out of. Okay, and so you'll go all the way back to a vision. Okay, and so this is how it's worked in the past for me. You go back to this vision of like, a bad scenario is about to happen, and then you won't remember anything. But because I'm a third party, I'm not you in the vision. I'm seeing the whole vision, so I can see what's happening down the end of the field. I can see other things in your vision, so I can see what's coming. So then I can say, okay, we need to heal this bit. Okay, that's the bit of the trick, is that you've got to be able to see the entire scenario. Okay, and so once the scenario can be seen, then you can alleviate what's happening there. So if they've got no memory to the point, then that'll be the start of the darkness, and I can go through the darkness, see where they're at, and then heal that bit. And so the person might not consciously know what had happened in that memory still, but you release the energetics that are held in it. Okay, because we're not meant to be in this state where we're living in the past, remembering everything. We're meant to be in the moment. We're meant to just be breathing in, breathing out, and living right in the moment of things. And when we're focusing on our past wounds, that's a distraction from manifesting into the future. And so it's a big push by the dark side so that you can't manifest, you can't control your life, you can't be in power because you're focused on your trauma. And so for the people that can't remember the trauma but know that there's something there, there's other ways of just calling out the entities that override or sit right above it, as in they controlled everyone that did the things, and you can denounce them and their contracts over you and over all the field that you live in, and that removes it.
That's quite interesting. Also, I wanted to make a comment about the angelic thing. So because I come from I've delved quite heavily into my ancestry DNA for several reasons, most specifically because of the medical problems that have been created by it. But all my ancestry is Central European, from sort of England, Ireland, Wales through to the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So and Norway. Actually, goes as far as Norway, but that's pretty much the whole thing. But one of the predominant things is being an Ashkenazi Jew, and I grew up with a man who was an earth scientist, which is why I said we were always taught to walk gently on the earth. Like if we're going to grow something, we will try and grow and work with what works in our geography. And if we're going to hunt something to eat, we will take only that which we're going to eat now, that kind of concept. But the interesting thing about you said about the angels is, according to Judaic information, supposedly the angels or concepts of those archangels and things will predate Judaism and Christianity, which is an interesting idea for me. Because it's like, well, in that case, humanity had to be looking at things to guide or help them, rather than focusing on this concept of deity. So they were kind of like, because those angels supposedly predated.
Yeah.
The information that I've found in the past has suggested they predate Judaism and Christianity.
Well, from everything that I've experienced, right, we give them the term angel and wings and this type of thing to understand that they're free of the plane of existence, so they can leave. So they don't tend, in my experience with them, they're presenting like human, but in their original essence, they're a big fireball. They're this big fireball that can see and taste everything like you can. That's what your spirit looks like. And so they're just an unincarnated spirit that is on the plane to assist us, okay? Whether or not they're here to assist us with the good or the bad determines how they sit high or low in the angelic field, okay? As to like in that religious idea as to whether they're fallen or whether they're still helping us, okay? But even the fallen ones are still helping you learn. They're all just steps, you know, and some of the higher steps and some of the lower steps. And so anciently in the Germanic stuff, we didn't have angels, we had elves. We had elven folk that would come and help do things. And so these guys were pure white, like angels are, but, you know, no wings, because instead of flying away, they would just vanish away. So, you know, they were interdimensional that way. We didn't have this planetary idea. We were planes of existence rather than planets. And so for us, the angels weren't a thing, as in like separate to us. They were part of us. They were the webbing that kept everything together almost. You know, like if we were going to do something, we'd set spaces for them, you know, and so they have myth where they set spaces for the elves. But then the same story will be rewritten a couple of hundred years earlier where they set spaces for their dead kin. So that's where the words get all mixed up, where the dead folk that are enlightened and have serviced the creator, they're the ones that are the angelic hosts, so to speak. They're the ones that are promoted to that role of guiding us, okay? That's at least my understanding of it in working with them. And so my statement around Archangel Michael, and because in my practice, I don't use anything else. I just use the one ray of light. And so to me personally, how it looks is it's a ray of light coming from creation to help. And so no wings, like doesn't look like a human. It's a ray of light. And that's partly because of my perspective of myself. I've taken myself higher into my soul body to be separate from the human. So I don't see the human as the leading of the universe. I see us as part of the ecosystem. And we need a kick in the bum and get in our spot.
So in saying that, if you were looking at general Wiccan practice, eclectic Wicca, Judaic practice, ceremonial practice, we often set up boundaries around ourselves when we're going into into spiritual practices like this, especially when you're going into something like a shadow work and whatever, which is kind of what you're really doing by taking people into these spaces. So, yeah. And I've often described that, for example, setting up a Wiccan circle as having like a sphere of protection around you rather than the traditional, say, east, west, north, sort of just linear circle, more sort of above you and down through to the ground and like more like a spherical type thing. Do you use anything like that when you're working?
Yeah, so before someone comes to see me, I set up my own. Yeah, I bring down the white light into my heart and completely fill my being. And then I excuse the French, but I squeeze my asshole and that pushes the pores, okay? And I push the white light through my pores and then I build an orb around me that goes through the earth and through my rainbow layers. And then I encompass kilometers around me. And when the person comes in, we get them to build that white light and get them to build their own orb so that they're in their own encompassment. If I took someone into their sacred circle, part of the protocol for in there is you meet the self and you integrate the self, but then you, in the center, you can rebuild the things that are there, but then you would soak yourself in the white light and take the white light out to the perimeter of your sacred circle. And then you can blast the tree line, like boom, with the tree line. And because the tree line's where all the day-to-day negative sits. And so you grow your orb to there, and that's encompassing your heart space, your sacred space, and holding it in a white light. And so when you're doing that, anything that you welcome in there, so say you went on a spirit journey and you welcome it in there, it'll change colors as it comes inside of you because it's getting purified in the white light. And so everything gets released. Whatever you command will get released because you are creation. So you're the incarnated one that is going back inside like the wizard or the witch saying, this is how it's going to be. Except when we do this, we don't get in there and be like, I demand this now and you shall give me peace. No, you're saying it as it's already achieved. So you say, I remove and release anything that holds me down, me, and stops me from growing. Because this is the same statement, but said like you know what you're doing.
That sounds exactly like when I first read Scott Cunningham's work, and the description of setting up a sacred space and sacred circle was like by curse and blast. And the first thing he used to tell students was, no, you're inviting something into your space and that's disrespectful.
Yes.
And I felt like by saying that, it was like saying, hey, that was setting it up in a negative way in my mind to start with, because it was already saying, hey, this is something I've got to be aggressive and nasty about. And instead of, and I used to explain it by saying, look, there's your door, there's your front door. Do you invite guests in impolitely or politely? Like, you know, like you're inviting them into your sacred space. So by doing that, how do you want to actually go about that? Do you curse at somebody that you're inviting to your front door in your home? Like, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand that concept and the description, and yet you were one of the most famous Wiccan authors out there, and I never understood the description of the way it was set up.
Well, see, I think that part of what they're doing is there's two hands playing here. There's the negative that everyone can feel of the government doing whatever they're doing. And so these hands are playing in our life and have done way back since, Sherwood Forest, all the way back through time to now. And so we have the honor and the job to stand in your light, understand who you are, understand your practice of what you're meant to be doing and how that's meant to affect the ecosystem. And then once you've done that, you're syncing with all of creation. Okay, like you became the ecosystem again. And so, do the animals, like apart from human intervention, do the animals run out of food or do they move? They move. The universe speaks to them and says, move, go with the flow. And so long as you're at ease and at surrender with the universe and willing to do whatever the universe is saying needs to be done and the movements that need to be made, then you'll always be looked after like one of the children of the earth. That was how it was all keyed to be. Okay. And so it's very lovely meeting you today. Thank you for tuning in.
You too. Good conversation.
Does anybody else have any questions? Petra or Ange? Petra?
Yeah. I'm going to go, but I'm going to preface it with how nervous I am talking about this kind of stuff, because I'm going to come across as a bit of a loon. But hey, in for a penny, in for a pound, I say.
Yeah.
James, there's so much you said that resonates with me on a level that I can't even begin to say. And there's other things my brain is at the point of saying, no, that's just too off this way for me too. I'm with you 100% with, I don't really care what we call it. If it's a light, if it's this, if it's that, it's really just how our limited amount of scope tries to put a label on it. Don't really care. So, but what I wanted to talk to you about, I've had really major issues with medical stuff since I was born. Wasn't supposed to be here past being 5 years of age. Passed away on an operating table and had to be resuscitated, and have always had precognitive dreams. And I've always had issues in my dreaming in terms of when you were talking about entities, it really made my back prickle a little bit because I have issues with entities, etc. I've been to different psychics to help me, and they've been blocked from helping me because I've had people struck down with migraines. I've had people that have been in bed for a week just from being exposed to what apparently I have sitting there. Now, some of the theories that I've been put forward, and is where it gets a bit whatever, is that a door was opened, and the door's open, and I have an amazing amount of protective light from my family members protecting me, but there's equal amount of dark trying to get a foothold and use me as the foothold, apparently. In recent times, my father passed away, which was about a year and a bit ago. And that's when I started doing my own oracle deck. I'm actually getting a bit teary, so just bear with me.
That's fine.
And in doing that oracle deck, I sort of like came to the realization that, and I'll use bad language as well, but fuck it, I don't want to be scared of that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I've always been able to heal people with my hands. That's been something that I've always been able to do. I've always been able to sense what's in people in terms of if they've got, I've been able to pick up tumors, cancers, breaks in bones. I unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it, since I've been really focusing on creating this oracle deck, I'm seeing into people in a way that I hadn't before. But I think that's because I've opened myself to saying I'm not going to be scared of that other side anymore. And I've had a lot of things that have happened through my dreaming that are indicating that I've taken a step forward.
Yes.
So when you're talking and being your authentic self, I'm having an amazing call recently that I need to help people, and I believe I can. I believe through different ways that I can. But I've also got that voice of doubt that I've been talking to Taylor about, that it's an imposter syndrome, that I'm saying, well, yes, you could have this amazing calling and amazing gift, or you could just be delusional and you think you're helping people. But there's certain things that I'm seeing into people, and they're confirming it and saying, how did you know that? How did you see that? How was that? And I suppose I'm at that point of I want to continue. I really feel that I've got the ability to help people now. I'm not as scared as I was about what I'm opening myself up to, because I think I now have the resilience that I didn't have when I was younger to combat the darker side.
Yeah.
But I really don't know what's going on, is what I would basically throw that out to you and see what you get energetically from that.
So all of what you've said is 100% a fact in reality. Okay, so you will have what's called, and so when I'm saying these words, just pay attention and listen to your body. You will have either dark lords, overlords, masqueraders of light, or disincarnated beings, or elementals, or extraterrestrials, or extra dimensionals. You'll have these entities, and these are just like the common fodder. Okay, they like to present themselves as something like, thuggish, but they're basically harvesting fear and anxiety out of you to feed an endless orange juice factory. Okay, and so my job, or what I do, is we shut that down and remove them by just simple words said to the subconscious. Okay, opening yourself. You are a portal. We all are. Every single human's a portal. When things happen to us as little children, that opens the portals. Okay, and so a human, nothing's happened as a little kid, so they made it to 9 years old and there's no trauma. They have all the portals, but they're not open. Okay, once you have a trauma happen to the child in a certain kind of way, then that trauma opens them up and they are an open portal. And so I was an open portal as well. And so that allows all the entities to come in. And so these entities, sometimes one might come in, but he'll drag 12 others with him. Now, only one of them wants to be there, the other 11 don't, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they're prisoners in your system as well. Okay, so when Liberation Day comes, like it's almost a celebration. There'll be one or two that hold on saying, no, that she's mine, but the rest of them, they run off real quick. Like they don't want to be there. Okay. And it's part of, because they know what's coming. And so like, if you just term an apocalypse, well, that's happening inside of you. And so all of these beings have lived there and now they're all dying. They're all getting removed. Their homes are being ripped out. This is an apocalypse inside of you. Okay. And so when you understand that these entities have driven and governed your entire life, then it can be pretty daunting to the effects that they've had in your life. And so once you remove all of these, like if you're an open portal, which I feel like you are, then you'll have like, over 200. If this is from child, then you're going to have over 200 odd, and these entities will be invisible friends. They will be you know, in the other reality, your friend, your father, your mother, anything, in an effort to attach themselves to you, to garnish your energy about how you feel about past relations, past situations. And so throughout the healing that I do, is that you're casting them out. And so the difference between like me casting out and like the father of a church casting out is that I am coming from a place where I've filled myself with the Creator's light, and I don't believe that they've done that. Otherwise, there wouldn't be as many sick people in the world. And so filling yourself with light allows you to be, you know, the hand of creation, okay? And so in being that, when I cast them out and I call them into the light, it's like a roll call. It's the Creator calling them, not me. It's not James. It's the white light that's calling them, saying, hey, child, come home. Because everything here belongs to the white light. It just got tarnished, fell in the mud on the way down, okay? And so when you release this from yourself, this will change your life drastically, okay? As in the foods you like, the people you want to be around with, all sorts of things, all right? And you'll be lonely. Lonely in a crowd full of people because you've had multiple people share the house with you, share your temple, okay? And so this is, if you sat with a psychologist, they'd probably want to tell you that you're schizophrenic or borderline personality disorder. What happens here is that when you're a child, they do certain things to us, and this splinters our personality, and through the splintering, that allows these entities to attach to us. And once we've been splintered or shattered, we're like open fodder for them. They just come in and rule the show and tell us that they're a guardian this and a guardian that, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? And so I've learned the long way that a lot of these entities that we think they're our friends, that's all a big fucking lie, excuse the French. And they're not here to help us. They're here to garnish our emotion and our energetic energy. They want it. It's gold. Okay? And so if they can make you corrupt and do all these stupid things that are terrible for your temple and terrible for your ancestral field, okay, then they're winning. And so, like, if you don't live in Toowoomba and can't come and see me, then privately ring me and I will walk you through. I'll tell you some spells to say to free yourself, because it is bullshit. You are divine light, and you, once taught or once awoken to your power, have the power to walk into a room and clear it without any sage, without any crystals. Like, this is what I was getting at before about the difference between the light and all of the rest of the shades of grey. If you truly stand into your white light, then when you go somewhere, you can cleanse it with your aura. You can cleanse it with your white light. And so you can't do that when you're filled with all the shades of grey. Yep. Okay, so understanding that you're not the shades of grey, you're that tiny little speck of sand that you can still see in the middle. And that sand you've got to make grow to fill up the whole place. And so that's done through reversing spell work, reversing curses, removing attachments, removing covenants from Leviathans, Giovannics, Metatronics, bloody Molochian races. All of these are just family lines that were living on Earth, okay? And we've deified them as angels or hosts or gods or whatever it is, okay? But in a shamanic worldview, exit from religion, you didn't have angelic hosts, you had dead human, you had helpers, you had rays of light, okay? And so everything else that we know to exist here is not like that. It's a man-made concoction of garbage held tight by ghosts that form the etheric layer. And these are the ones that are saying, go feed on her, go feed on him, go do this, okay? Not you, not the person, okay? And so freeing yourself from it will drastically change your life, drastically change how people interact with you and how you interact with them. All of the little bits and pieces that hurt before won't hurt. All of the things that were sand in the vagina, so to speak, won't be anymore, okay? It'll change the way you feel about things because you start to drive again. You start to take up all of the seed, okay? One thing you could do is do a little light meditation and go into your heart space. And so breathe into your chest open up a vision and allow it to grow, and it might look red and it might have chairs for everyone to sit in. Then you would, using the white light, blast the whole thing, remove all the chairs, because it's only meant to be one. Put one back. So it's about reformatting. Okay, so like you would with a computer, reboot, you know, except we've got to manually go do some of these tasks. And once they're done, that really throws the system out. Okay. And after a while, maybe, you know, after a big one like this, probably, you know, 3 weeks to 3 months, things would calm right down. But in that 3 weeks to 3 months, when you've got lots of attachments, it can either just drop right off and you'll feel like I'm the only person on earth, or it will pick right up and you'll have scratching on the walls, doors slamming, and then it'll die off. It's about control and fear trying to get you. And so like, I like to be alone, but I like to know humanity's there. So they did me in reverse. They chopped me off and made me alone from everyone. And so that thought it would fear me. But instead, I just sat by myself and cried and said, okay, so I've always been alone. And then the message came through and said, yes, you're alone. You were left there, but you're never alone. So different perspective to take on it gave me different motivation, different energy. And so instead of missing the characters that I spent 30 odd years building, I now understand what and who they were, not what I thought they were. Okay. But the actual game they were playing, not the game I was playing. Okay. Like when you meet someone in real life and they're being your friend because they see they can garnish something from you. That's how it works in that reality too, is they're only there to help you because they're garnishing something from you. Whereas the white light, like Archangel Michael or Thor or whatever you want to call that, that's just there. Like you can just say, help me, and it's there. There's no barter, there's no, oh, can you do this for me? Like, none of that crap. Like, okay. And so that would be my advice, is to, yes, all of the stuff you're going through is real. Okay. None of it is make believe. You're not crazy. Steer clear of telling physicians about it, because they'll say you're crazy. It is fixable. You can not shut it down. You can clear the system so that you can then channel divine. Okay, because what you are is an open portal, and so you don't want to shut that down. You want to fix. You want to make it run better. Okay, and so that's what my work was about: is fixing the chakra system so that everything flows, and then removing everything that's not meant to be part of you, and then allow you to just blossom in that. Okay, that's the work that I really try and do with people. Okay.
Thank you so much.
That's all right. Did I help answer some questions there?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
James, I was just going to say, I really quite liked your answer there in a way, because like a lot of things have been found to be mixed diagnosed, such as bipolar, multiple personalities, and things are often CPTSD or PTSD. In my practice, we can often call those entities you're discussing thought forms. So yes. Somebody's created something. So it might be something like, I actually met a lady who was creating spiders and things that would descend on her in every place she moved to, because it was through her trauma history that she was creating that. So I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm hearing what you're saying about not labeling yourself, because we can heal these things, but they just take that journey and that work, and it's a lot of, and it's a process. And to label yourself, you're automatically putting yourself in that thing. I used to get told by people I would never drive, and it wasn't until my martial arts practitioner teacher said, no, hang on, that's bogus, and the fears and things that you've been allowed to be instilled in you over this process are bogus, and I'm not going to reinforce them. And it wasn't until then I got my license. So, Andy, I just want to say, good luck with it, and persevere, because your process of journeying and healing yourself and then healing other people, it's a hard one. It's a hard journey, but it's a worthwhile journey. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no more questions, I might close it off for this afternoon. We've gone a bit over time, but that's okay because you're interesting, James.
Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah. I have looked forward to this. No one else knew, but I rang up a month early.
He's like, oh, we're still on for the chat today. And I'm like, you mean next month, bruv? So keen. It's been awesome having you. Thank you so much for jumping on this afternoon and sharing your knowledge with us and answering questions and everything.
Thank you.
Be sure to chuck those links and things in the Kynok Coven group so that we can all have a little look-see.
Yes, absolutely.
And thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you all. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.